Hi, this is Bob Scully, and welcome to another edition of The World Show, Entrepreneurs, the Dobson series. This week we're going to meet two entrepreneurs who are locksmiths. Now there's an old and honorable profession, except get this, they are digital locksmiths. As a matter of fact, that's the name of the company, Digital Locksmith. And one of them is a certified ethical hacker. The word ethical is important, of course. He can hack into all kinds of things. He knows how it's done, but he does it for the good guys, not the bad guys. Here then is Terry Cutler and his partner, CEO Wadih Tannous. Terry Cutler, Wadih Tannous, I've always wanted to meet a certified ethical hacker, next best thing to a real evil hacker. But what is a certified ethical hacker?
So the way a certified ethical hacker works is, back in the day, I got influenced by watching shows like CSI and 24, and I'm wondering, how's Chloe and Brian breaking all these systems so fast? So I did some research, and there was actually a course called the Certified Ethical Hacker, where they teach you the same techniques the bad guys use to break in, except using those skills for good to defend corporations and individuals.
And you're down in Washington, D.C., isn't it?
Yeah, it was in Washington. I actually got the privilege to train with the FBI and CIA and Navy SEALs who were actually in that course with me. So we got to share an abundance of wealth of information. And
yet, a question that occurs to anybody listening to this is, okay, so they teach you the stuff the bad guys do for good, but why are the bad guys still around doing it? Why haven't we shut down these methods and these loopholes?
Well, it's part of the human nature, is to take up the challenges. Majority of hackers, the way it started, it's just basically a challenge that they wanted to take up, that I broke into this particular system. However, as our life has evolved and the economies and the countries have evolved, now it became a lucrative business. Mm-hmm. So, and especially with the breakdown of the USSR, and a lot of the scientists have been out of their particular job responsibilities. Now they became like free agents, and they can use those skills to either for industrial espionage or national security threats or just for economical benefits.
Yeah. But are they always one step ahead?
They are, because a lot of times, us as professionals, we go home, we have a family at night, we have a job, and these guys could just specialize in those domains all day long. And when you get a bunch of these specialists together, that's when the danger happens.
So you're not surprised when we read, for instance, this is said, it's not proven, but that the Chinese are able to wreak havoc, and they use officially private citizens and call them hackers and say, that's not us. Right. But actually the government is directing them to wreak havoc around the planet. That's plausible.
Yeah, but I always have a concern with that, because a lot of these hackers go through what's called anonymizers. So I could be sitting in Montreal and go through an anonymizer which comes out of China and then right back into Canada, mm-hmm. and perform an attack, and they'll say, oh, the attacks came from China for sure, because they have no jurisdiction to go in there and confiscate the servers. And most of the times the logs will be erased. So it's like breaking into a house and then sweeping up for yourself as you leave.
But yes.
However, if I may add, there is a validity to this, because as we are now more and more into going from the information age into more of the online virtualization and the e-commerce and so on, there are valuable ways for countries now to create defenses or threats to other countries via the online. So there is plausible scenario that certain countries will go onto the online hacking business to advance certain political or economical or wreak havoc.
Well, one spectacular example seems to have been the Israelis. They've barely denied it. They've really given lip service to the denial that they may have interfered with the Iranian nuclear program from afar just by getting into those computers.
That's a very good point, because if we hear a lot about cyber terrorism. And a lot of incidents that we're hearing about when someone hacks into a company or steals credit cards, they call it cyber terrorism. But actually, in actuality, the definition of cyber terrorism is when you are using those hacking methods to interrupt infrastructure that are critical to our day-to-day operation, such as the electrical grid or nuclear power plant, etc. Yes, so this is a very it's a shift.
It's actually though it's odd, because it's for good, quote unquote, since they're trying to stop people from making a bomb.
That's correct.
But that was a dangerous example, because the turbines were overheating, but the monitoring systems were still saying it was okay.
So they could have caused a
absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you say, when you took the course, sir, how long is that course?
It lasts about a week and a half.
That's all?
Yep, but it's intensive, so you're there for 11, 12-hour days.
And you going in there were a computer
Yes,
whiz
you
kid,
have to
I
have
assume?
some background in computers. So
And so now, even though you're duty bound to do this for good,
Yeah.
again, quote unquote, supposing I asked you as a challenge, all right, get into the Royal Bank of Scotland,
Right.
get into their systems right now. Could you do it?
Well, first thing, we always ask for authorization first. So without the authorization, we can't even turn on the computer. So if we did have the authorization to do it, because maybe you had the contacts there, we had everything signed and everything, then yeah, we have a bunch
You
of
could
tools
go
where
in.
We can go in, yeah.
So they're
Obviously,
not-
we would test. I mean, not every system is breakable. So
But most are.
most are. Because you know where the weakest link is?
Where?
Is actually the humans, the end users. So as an example, let's say I was to break into this bank. I wouldn't necessarily have to go after their firewall systems. I would find out who works at the bank and send them an email saying, here's the documents you requested from the Britain office. And they're going to go click that link, and they're going to install a virus that will let me right into the back door and bypass all your expensive $1 million system.
And no virus detector, permanent virus detector, can automatically find that.
Absolutely not.
Why not, though? When you think of it, why not?
Well, I mean, we have to look at the human nature itself. We are systems that are geared and programmed to be trustworthy. And you cannot basically create and mimic that type of understanding on when to stop the viruses or how to stop all the various scenarios of those viruses. For example, the social engineering example that Terry had mentioned, it has to do, bottom line, with the trust factor. I'm trusting that person, that email address that is coming from my Britain office. I'm trusting that document. I'll open it. Now I have a back door.
Just by virtue of opening it.
Just virtue, of opening it. Other ways of methods that can be used is very simple. You walk into, after a bunch of employees, into a particular corporation, and people will keep the door ajar for you to come in without seeing your ID. You ask for, let's say, to use their public bathroom. You go in, you put a couple of USB keys on the wash, on the faucet, the faucet.
Yeah, on the sink.
On the sink, and you walk out.
Somebody will plug it in.
Someone will pick it up
Really?
and plug it
That's
in.
how we usually. That's how we do
Because they're
it.
curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that will put malware into the...
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because a lot of it stays in memory, so unless it's written to the actual hard drive, the antivirus won't kick in and say, hey, this is malicious.
But what is the point of an antivirus at all, then?
Right now, they're becoming less and less efficient, because now, as the news happened with Symantec being broken into, the source code for antivirus and some other software was taken. So eventually, once it gets decoded, the antiviruses will almost become useless.
And how about encryption? Good old-fashioned encryption. For instance, on the BlackBerry, the degree of encryption is pretty high.
Yep.
Is that of any use?
It has its own purpose when it was created. However, the technology and the use of these devices has evolved. Okay, but unfortunately, the encryption devices has not been, catching up to that. Encryption mainly is you scrambling the data, and then at one end, you have a descrambler, and the other end has the same descrambler.
Yeah.
So when you send this data, it opens up. At the end, at the end, when you are not careful with how to use the device, that whatever malware or virus is sitting now inside your device, and it's looking at all kinds, even the encryption capability that you have. So it can ride with the encryption, and then goes to the other end, it decrypted, and then now we are inside.
Boy, that's scary. It's scary to talk to you guys. But looking at your entrepreneurial story, how then do you pick up clients? If any client is to quiz you the way I've just quizzed you, and you confirm with him that nothing is perfectly safe, why would he want to use you?
Sign here. So yeah, we show them, a lot of times we'll talk about some of the stories we've done. But that's one of the challenges we have, is that customers say, oh no, we're safe, we don't need security. And then, months later, they end up on the 6 o'clock news. And
But worse than that is if they ask you, can you protect me totally, you can't even say yes.
No,
you can't.
And we won't.
No.
Because there is no total security that exists. However, our approach to it is a holistic approach. We look at every single aspect that touches the environment. Humans, infrastructure, IT systems, even HR policies, even at, to the point of partners, contractors, subcontractors. So we look at that from a holistic way, and then we are able to identify and prioritize the threat areas. You don't have to come in, and everybody who says that I can protect you and guarantee 100% security is unfortunately not telling, the true story, the whole truth. Another thing too, we have to look at the fact that with the new generation of workers that are coming into the, the mainstream line, which is the Generation Y, they're very productive, very choosy about where to work. However, they're very socially connected. So they have to really understand what are the responsibilities and the consequences when they are now a professional, worker, and understanding what the trade secrets they have to protect and what they have to behave and how they want to behave within an environment itself. So it's a responsibility, and it's two phases: awareness and governance. That's what comes down to.
But is there at least, how shall we say, a mid-level of security that can be attained?
Yes.
If you come in, I noticed in in your literature, you were treating a case where you found malware. It sounds almost like mining, 30,000 pages down.
Yes.
In a website.
Yeah.
You found a bug.
Yeah.
But you had to do a lot of searching.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of tools that help us data mine all this stuff as well. But we have to have great testers to actually understand this code and review it manually. So luckily we had some great testers to get that job done.
And then you also sometimes submit to an exam. You have a tester independent of yourself.
Yep.
Come in to try and challenge what you've done.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And if he fails, then you're happy. Because,
That's right.
And I remember speaking once to a great specialist who again, I was kind of frustrated saying, well, why in the world isn't this thing cleaned up once and for all? And he said, you could, but the internet grew like a patchwork quilt in bits and pieces, erratically. Nobody thought it would explode like that. And you'd have to be able to shut it down like a hotel that you refurbish, where you change the wiring and so on.
Right.
If you could shut it down for 6 months, you probably could make it secure. Is that true?
Well, it is true, but it cannot happen.
No, I know. He said that too. He said it's just too essential to everybody.
Right, and that's why there is a mention about a second generation or third generation internet that is being built right now for specific purposes, such as critical infrastructure, government business, etc. That will alleviate the concerns and the risks from the original internet. And
so it's not a rumor.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, it is not a rumor. It is an ongoing effort, and more
Government effort, I assume.
I believe so. Yes.
But when that is complete, there will be a parallel system,
Yes.
and that will be uncrackable.
Well, there's still the human element in there. I wouldn't say we are not perfect in systems, and as long as humans are involved as part of the design, the architecture, and the use of an environment, there are always going to be holes in that that you can crack.
We have a saying that there's no fix for human stupidity.
Yes, no, and I know that when people, very often the banking systems are pretty good. The banks have pretty good firewalls.
Yeah.
But the minute you go with your debit card to a grocery store
Yeah.
and you put it in, or your credit card, and you put your PIN number in,
Yep.
anybody who can pick up on wireless sitting in the parking lot has
Right.
you.
Yep.
So that has nothing to do with the bank. It's you.
Yep. Yep.
That's right.
We even had some of our specialists go in. You can have technology where you can have an antenna which will go out and send out a signal to everybody. So anybody who's got the chip card will be able to pull off the information out of it.
Really?
Right.
In a given, like in a store, in a radius.
That's right, within a range, yeah.
So is this a hopeless situation?
No, it's not. It's actually there is a workable solution. It's going to take a long time. However, with the proper awareness campaigns and the proper governance that is in place, everyone has to act responsibly whenever they're using the internet. Again, I gave the example earlier about the Generation Y. We're seeing a lot of our teenagers now, they are living more and more reliant on the devices. They're sharing amount of information,
Yes,
tremendous amount of
absolutely.
information about themselves, about their families, about what they're doing. Unfortunately, this information is not going away. Whenever they are at a age where they're going to have to take responsibility of becoming into the workplace, this information can be retrieved and could become an issue, for either employment. Even not, it's just threatening to the family members, other family members. I mean, I'll give you an example. Just a simple picture that you take on your phone. You upload it into a Facebook or MySpace and so on. That picture has geolocation information that identifies where it was taken from. And if you use the proper tools in there, you can exactly
pinpoint where a child might be or something like that.
Where it was taken.
And when you're in front of a client, you discuss in your literature some of the, let's look again at the entrepreneurial story. Your business model is retainers with corporations or one-shot operations, salvage operations, protection operations. What kind of client do you look for, and how do you service them?
We have a select customer list that we go after. I mean, that really are in specific areas or environments or industries that we work with. We have a lot of strategic partners that have other customers too that they will, bring us in for our services. There's two sides for our services. One is what we call the Feasibility Services, which really understand and study the holistic way of the environment, because before you know how to clean it up, you have to understand where you are. And the issue nowadays that corporations are dealing with is that on the privacy issue, that any breach of the privacy, the board of directors, the members of the board of directors are personally liable. So they don't have that kind of indemnification capability any longer. So you have to really understand what are the priorities as part of our feasibility services that we provide. Then from there we have the product side of the of the business, which basically handle the privacy and the security of mobile devices and any devices that are being used as part of the operational criteria.
And so when you leave the client's offices after having done this, which might take typically what? Few weeks, or
the feasibility services ranges between maybe 2 weeks to a month, time frame, to really study and understand, because we focus only on the areas that are risk averse.
And so when you leave, you have pretty much cleaned it up, and you've given them instructions on how to keep it clean.
Yeah, we pretty much collected everything that we felt is at risk, document it so that either the customer can do it themselves or we can.
And do you stay on a retainer basis with them? Do you come in every now and then to sort of...
It's starting to. A lot of times these corporations don't have budgets, which is one of the problems we have. So a lot of times we'll go in there and we'll just hack right through them, pull out all kinds of credit card data, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, then all of a sudden you didn't know you were held liable? Oh, geez, you should have downloaded it from the privacy law. So,
and this is one of the challenges in being in business. Unfortunately, security has always been considered a cost center, not a profit center within corporations. So the budget, they are the last one to get any budget or no budget at all.
But if they open the paper, they can see that it can end up being a cost problem too.
Now it's being prioritized.
There's another case study on our website where the corporation got breached the year before and brought in a large company. So it cost them like $150,000 to get it cleaned up, where if they would have done a test properly the year before, it would have cost them maybe $10,000 or $20,000.
Yeah.
So.
And is it true that with the so-called botnets, what they use for denial of service, that people might have computers in their offices or their homes, they have no idea that when there's an attack like that with 10,000 computers, their computer is one of them.
Yep.
They have no idea.
So that's what happened on the other case study. You'll see one from CompuWeeze, where their website all of a sudden just was unreachable because someone launched a botnet, a denial of service attack against their website. So we had to move them off a different provider to one that had this capability for defense. And
again, getting back to the entrepreneurial story, this is obviously a necessary business and a thriving business. Now, can it be a lucrative business? Do you expect your firm to be 10 times as big in a few years?
Yes, of course.
Probably, right? Because the need is immense.
Yeah. The need is immense, and it's all about as we are growing more and more and using these sophisticated devices, and especially integrated devices, from at-home entertainment centers that are now surfing the internet. You don't have even to move from your couch anymore.
Right.
And that's the convenience of it. However, there's an exposure there that would constitute a major threat and a good market for us.
Yeah. We have an aggressive agenda. Within 10 years, we'd like to be a blueprint company, which is a $1 billion firm. But obviously, we can't do it alone. So we have strategic partners that we work with. So every partner, what's unique about these folks is that every partner has a specialty that the other one doesn't. So when you have 5 or 6 groups like that, and you bring a holistic approach to the customer. So you bring them one big picture solution. So now they can say, okay.
And you would service, you'd be a billion-dollar company servicing billion-dollar clients, obviously.
Absolutely.
I assume.
Right.
Well, Terry Cutler and Wadih Tannous, I wish it upon both of you. And there's a few people I'd like to hack, and maybe I can get you to change your minds about the ethical part. No, they wouldn't. Thank you so much. Good luck and long life.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.